Hello, my name is Nicole, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Today, I am talking about no choice for the mind controlled. No choice for the mind controlled. When we take a look at the various news stories involving entertainers and some of the strange things they say and do, understand that there is no choice for the mind controlled slave puppet. There is no choice for them once they have been controlled by their handlers, their doctors, their psychologists, their psychiatrists, and anyone else around them. But prior to the individual or group being controlled, there was a choice. There was a choice to stay or to go, to be connected or to be disconnected. But as I've said in other audio, when the enemy is at work and he lures you in with some tricks, with some treats, with some presents, with some promises, you will be captivated and eventually you will fall for the enemy's snares. The woman who has been mind controlled by her partner, she doesn't have a choice. After a while, she becomes a victim that is enslaved via mind, body, and spirit. A victim that has been told repeatedly that you cannot go, that you must stay, that you will do this and you will do that. And if you don't, then these are the consequences. So her mind tells her that she can't leave, that she can't go, that this man has done this and done that for you, and so she stays put. She either toes the line, or she could be physically and or emotionally abused to the point where she wants to die. And who wants to feel that way, right? So most victims are going to conform. They're going to go along with the programming. Mind control people don't have a choice, but people who do have their minds intact, they do have choices. And not everyone who we view as a slave is really a slave. Some people are coming up out of their slavery and into freedom. There are those that will run away. There are those that will rebel. There are those that will say no. There are those that will come up with all sorts of groups and organizations and what have you to get up out of the slave mentality. There are those who still have their minds and will break chains. I talked in another audio about how there's so many songs in the churches that talk about being free and breaking chains and walking with Christ and all of these good things that lead people toward having a mind of their own rather than being controlled by the controlling father, controlling mother, controlling spouse, controlling organization, controlling siblings. You see, if I'm not able to make a choice, there are no resources, there is no help, I can't see freedom, then I'm going to stay put in whatever city, whatever home, whatever organization or workplace that I'm in. But God's people who are truly walking with Him are going to show you that there are choices. God's people who are about exposing lies are going to show you where the truth was suppressed, was suffocated. And yes, sometimes it's hard to swallow the truth. Sometimes it is hard to accept the fact that maybe mama did have a choice when she was in that crazy relationship, yet she stayed. And maybe daddy could have packed up his stuff and left, but he wanted to be there. He wanted to be there for whatever reasons, you see. And maybe there were those individuals that come before us that had choices, but they're not alive to tell us whether or not they had a choice. Maybe some right now in the entertainment industry and elsewhere, maybe these individuals have choices, but they want to lead people into believing that they don't. Because today I benefit if I play on the heartstrings of individuals who pity me because I'm in this system that has played me and I can't seem to see my way out. But maybe one does see his or her way out, but doesn't want the populace to know. And then, of course, there are those that can't see their way out because they're caught up in the drugs, the alcohol, and some very, very high-tech type of programming that they are nothing more than puppets on strings. There is something that I want to say that's very important. I discussed this with my son. The sad part of this existence that we live in, this period of time right now, is that we have individuals who have their minds. They are very logical. They're very intelligent, right? But the sad part is that these intelligent, logical minds are trying to take their logic, their expertise, and place it on dysfunctional minds that don't have a clue what they're talking about. They're confused. They've been used. They've been abused. And basically, they're trying to force individuals to be like them, to think like them. But if I'm broken in spirit, if my back is bent over, you can't make me straighten up my back if I don't even have the mindset to straighten up my back, if I don't have the resources to straighten up my back, if I'm not where I need to be in terms of getting healing. You are badgering me at some point. You are forcing me to think like you, and my mind is ill-equipped to do that. Yes, we would love for so many people to be free, but so many people aren't free, and so many people are incapable of being free because their mindset is warped. I can't talk sense to someone who's intoxicated on a daily basis. I'm not going to be able to get through to someone who is high on drugs. I'm not going to be able to reach the woman who sees her husband or boyfriend as a god in her life. I'm not going to be able to reach that one who has all sorts of handicaps and all they say is possibly the same old every time you talk to them, right? Some of you all know what I'm talking about. There's some people who cannot change their mind in a way where they even make any sense. So there are some people that in our human strength, in our human education, in our human knowledge, wit, and even some folks that God has not even moved upon their spirits to pray for these people who are so broken, so used, so abused, so handicapped, to be reached. Some people are not going to be reached. The sad part of our human existence, what we know to be true, but yet we want to force a square peg into a round hole. And this is why some people's minds are so blown. This is why some people, they end up breaking programming only to come back to programming, breaking programming again, and then they simply just aren't making any sense after a while. The brain can only take but so much torture, pain, confusion, drugs, and some of you all know the rest because you are experiencing the side effects. You are trying to shake the hallucinations. You're trying to get over the insomnia. You're trying to get away from the people who keep you negatively influenced in so many different ways. And the more you try, the more it seems that you are encaged via mind control tactics of all sorts. I'm not going to get into the specifics of mind control, but there definitely is that sort of thing going on in our society. Those of us who don't delve deep into those sorts of subject matters, it is hard for us to understand what a mind control slave looks like, what they say, how they behave. We've got mind control slaves in various departments, positions, leadership roles in our land that is supposed to be free. We have various organizations that are designed to keep the enslaved slaved. And sometimes the solutions to break people free from toxic programming work for a time, and then they go back into their cages of their minds, only to come out, say something that their programmers tell them to say, and then go back into their cages again until called upon. I know that for some people that's too big to even think about, to imagine, to even wrap your head around, but it very much is real. I'm not going to get into the different names that are out here that would be some proven examples of what mind control looks like. But I'm sure that those who leave comments, you will share what you know, and that's good enough for me. I thank those of you all who have taken a moment to listen to this audio message. Some of you all, you may not be familiar with the mind control that goes on a grandiose scale when it comes to the media being put up to controlling our minds, to think a certain way, to make decisions, to put our money into various groups, to buy this product and that one. There is that kind of mind control that takes place within the family. I do want to talk about that briefly. And that type of mind control, I talk about it in Say Goodbye to Dad, as well as in Tell Me Mother You're Sorry, where the matriarchs and the patriarchs have been controlled by those individuals that they grew up with. And so their programming, they eventually put it upon their children, and then their children put it upon their children, and so on and so forth. And along the line, the generational bloodline, no one is asking questions. No one is saying the buck stops here. No one is saying things like, this is dysfunctional, this is crazy, no wonder the family can't get ahead. Or maybe the family is getting ahead, but then there's a long line of divorces, drug use, alcohol abuse, because people don't want to change their way of thinking and their way of doing things, and they definitely don't want to disconnect from the toxic family members and friends in the family. And so this is what perpetuates the mind control in so many different ways. Some people will keep various tactics of mind control around because some of it simply works. And so they want more money, so they know that there's certain things that they'll do in order to get someone or a group to be more successful. Okay. There are those individuals who know a lot about persuasion and how to persuade people to get what they want. And the very things that they learn in colleges, they will take that teaching and they'll use it in the family construct. So while you're thinking that Jenny is just being Jenny, Jenny just went off and got an education on how to persuade, okay, how to manipulate, how to get what she wants. And people who are not familiar with higher education, they don't know when they're being swindled, bamboozled. All they think is that they are making their own decision. But meanwhile, just using an example, Jenny has won them over and won them over well. We have those individuals within the family that are very, very good liars. They are very good at telling false stories. They're very good at saying things that are not factual. They are the type of individuals that will come up with all sorts of ways to make their stories valid. These individuals are the type who will sugarcoat truth, very good at pointing the finger, but not so good at taking the finger being pointed back at them. So what they have to do is get some supporters around them that are of lower intellect to go along with whatever their programming is, in order to make them look good in front of individuals who question them now on who they are. And are they really truthful? Are they really honest people? Because since they've been exposed, there's some doubt there. And people who are hell-bent on keeping their reputation intact, what they'll do is they have to make sure that their minions, their flying monkeys, will follow the script accordingly. And if they do well, those are the ones who get rewarded. We see this in families where there are multiple children, and there's the patriarch or the matriarch who wants the one sibling to shut up and not to expose family events, family history, family anything, and definitely he or she wants secrets to stay under wraps. So one way of making sure that that mouth keeps closed is to get the siblings to go up against that particular mouthpiece in the family, you see. Mind control works in various ways. Mind control shows up by creating paranoia, making the one who is mind controlled think that someone is after him. Mind control works in taking items away that a person cherishes, or bringing items into existence that once traumatized them or scared them. Mind control works in such a way where individuals will will show up and just simply act as if they're going to do something to an individual. Once again, using fear to maintain the subject. Mind control is also used in ways where there is physical abuse, torture, if you will. And then, of course, if there is no physical abuse, there is emotional abuse to some capacity, whether that is bringing up deceased loved members repeatedly, bringing up negative stories about them, all the while bad-mouthing the person who's being controlled. We've seen this in a small scale when it comes to domestic violence as well as dating violence, the abuser abusing the woman or the woman abusing the man, and doing it by taking monies, by crazy making, isolation, sexual abuse, punching, kicking, spitting, all sorts of things go on in toxic relationships. And so you are to safeguard your mind. You are to keep away from those individuals that you know are power persuaders, are very good at manipulating, trying to lure you in, scare you, come up with ways to make you be a follower, a fan, or what have you. Go to the Lord. That's my best advice. Go to the Lord, pray. People have prayed before they listen to my audios, and I encourage it. You should pray, because not every word is for everyone. There may be some things that might trigger you in a certain audio, so if you didn't pray about it, you don't want what was meant for good to turn into something evil, right? We are also instructed to get around like-minded believers, people who believe like we do, people who hold themselves accountable to the one true God, okay? We are to also resist the devil. When we know that the enemy is up to his or her games, manipulations, mind control, what have you, we are to resist the devil, and eventually the devil flees, okay? The devil's not going to stick around where he's not wanted, where he's not accepted. People have broken mind control simply because they said no. They walked away. They fought. They were willing to give their lives up. They were willing to travel across the land, sea, air, what have you, to get away from toxic people, places, and things. And I say hallelujah and praise the Lord for those who are so bold to stand up and say, no, not anymore. I'm not putting up with this. We saw this sort of thing with the civil rights movement. We saw this similar thing when you look back at slave history, where there were those who rebelled, who revolted against slave masters and slave owners. John 16:13, the truth is what will set us free. Once you know the truth about your bondage, your enslavement, whatever you feel emotionally and physically tied to that is no longer righteous and true to you. And everybody else on the outside is looking in saying, I could have told you that was wicked, that was unrighteous, and that was setting you back. But once you know the truth, then the truth will work upon you in such a way that you start seeing the freedom. In the spiritual realm, we know this, but when He, the Spirit of truth, comes, He will guide you into all the truth. He will not speak on His own. He will speak only what He hears, and He will tell you what is yet to come. Jesus Christ was telling people what was to come. Those major as well as minor prophets were speaking what was to come. The Holy Spirit that Jesus left behind uses us mere mortals, if we are open and willing to follow, if we believe. He will use us mere mortals to speak the kind of truth that is 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years down the line. There have been prophets that spoke 100 plus years ago, and things are taking place now. When God uses a man or woman to speak your truth and you didn't even open up your mouth, and you know that that truth is leading you toward freedom, you don't fight up against it. You don't make up excuses. You don't hide behind somebody and talk about how, I got cold chills from that. You are called to do something about the bondage that you're in. You are called to do something about the bondage that you are in. And let me give you a few examples before I close out this message. People are in financial bondage. That is a slavery type of mentality in and of itself, because you are bound to money. Whether you got it or whether you don't have it, you are bound to it because money's on your mind. You're willing to do all sorts of things to get more money or swindle people up out of their money. Okay? Some people are depressed because of all the money that they've lost in all sorts of investments. So one's mind is captivated in an area that all they think about is their money, a financial bondage. Okay? When the truth shows up to expose what it is that they are so wrapped up in, they will either receive the correction, the rebuke, and make some changes, or they're going to fight up against it, and they're going to call all of the wise men, wise women, stupid, dumb, you don't know what you're talking about. Another example of bondage, sexual bondage. You think about it. You want it all the time. You're here, there, and everywhere with this one and that one. You can't seem to operate without having some type of feeling on the inside related to sex. You know that what you're experiencing is not normal. Dare we say it, but it's not. And so rather than be wrapped up in that type of bondage, you want to be free of it. For instance, maybe you don't, but there are those who want to be free. In order to be free of it, you've got to make up in your mind to get rid of the things that trigger it, and to also go see a doctor, because it could be some hormonal imbalances that are going on, you see. There are also those who have to sit down with sex counselors and talk about why they feel the way they feel, why they're thinking the way they're thinking, why they are taking a chance with their health like they're taking it, as well as their marriages and everything else. okay, that are related to their sexual bondage. When someone speaks the truth about you are a sex addict, you got sex problems or sex whatever, there comes a point where you don't make excuses for it any longer. You do something about it, you see. And we can list many other bondages that people put themselves in, right? There are those who are workaholics. All they think about is work. All they want to do is work. They can't function in an atmosphere that doesn't have anything to do with work. There are those who have their sports addictions, and that's all they think about is sports. There is nothing else that they want to talk about. And in order to be a balanced human being, a human being that is free, a human being that is working toward being a better person in this world before you close your eyes, there has to be some balance. There has to be a willingness to let go of those things that are mentally, physically, and spiritually keeping you from growing. And for some people, their addictions have cost them their marriages, cost them conversations, quality conversations they could have had. I talked with one son who told me, simply put, that folks are so caught up in their electronic devices that they're missing out on their lives. Okay? Life is moving so fast that they're not even appreciating one another. They're not taking up the time to even converse. And so you miss the water when the well runs dry. A person is 6 feet deep. And there are those who have their share of regrets because they have allowed people, places, and things to enslave them. And folks who stand up and say, you are not that person I once knew, that quality individual, that loving person, that person of integrity, that individual that really sincerely wanted to help people. I don't know this person. You're somebody different, somebody that's keeping people in bondage. It's safe to say that somebody needs to come up out of whatever false programming, false teachings, false doctrines. They need to come up out of that. Well, I thank you as always for taking time out of your busy schedule to listen. I know this message doesn't have that happy ring to it. I know that it's not one of the fiery messages to inspire you to get up and start dancing, but it is one of those messages to cause you to think a bit and to make necessary adjustments if this applies to you. And you can always share this message as well. Blessings to you. Thank you as always for just taking time out of your busy schedule to listen. Please do check the description box for anything that might be of interest. You've been listening to YouTube NM Enterprise 7. Subscribe, like, comment. Thank you as always.